Welcome to From the Eyes of Wisdom, where we pair an experienced elder from Christa Senior Living with a passionate King's High School student ready to launch into the world. Here's Sherry Lynn.
And here with us today, Staser and Harry. Guys, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
You guys are a little nervous? Yes? No?
No,
Nah, they're fine. They're fine. All right, I'm going to start with you, Staser. You are a senior? Yes? Okay, senior at King's High School. Tell me what you're thinking as far as graduation. Do you know what college you want to go to yet? Have you applied? What's going on there?
Yeah, I'm looking at a lot of different colleges. My top schools are probably the Air Force Academy and the Naval Academy.
Okay.
So if I get into those, that'd be great. But other schools, UW is local. It's great. A lot of people in my family have gone to UW, so that's another good option there, too.
Air Force?
Air Force Academy,
or Naval?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, both of my grandfathers served in the military, one Air Force, one Navy.
Okay. So legacy.
Legacy is a part of it, and I've always kind of been attracted to service and serving my community, so I've always involved myself in that, and I think serving in the military would be a really big next step towards a greater service.
Okay.
Service greater than myself.
Do you know what you're interested in doing beyond that? Do you have a field of study you're interested in?
Something techie, like computer science or engineering, probably.
Techie kind of things.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Harry.
Yes.
What are you thinking about military there in Legacy?
I think it's a good deal.
Yeah.
I think you ought to go for it.
Okay. All right. When you graduated high school, did you have a plan? Did you know, here's my next step. I know exactly what I'm doing, because there is a lot of pressure. That's the one thing that has been common in all of these episodes that I've had talking to young people. If they don't have an exact plan or something like it, they feel a lot of pressure to have one. I'm wondering, looking back, do you remember, first of all, do you remember feeling that pressure? And number two, did you have somewhat of a plan?
I did not feel pressure, but I did have a plan.
Okay.
I had taken a competitive examination to enter a machinist apprenticeship.
Oh, okay.
And that's what I did.
Okay.
The day I graduated, I moved to Bremerton and entered that apprenticeship.
Okay. Okay. So you did have sort of a plan, but you didn't feel the pressure of it.
I didn't feel much pressure. No.
Okay.
I've been working odd jobs off and on, picking berries and whatnot since I was 7 or 8 years old.
Okay.
So work was just obviously the next step.
Yeah.
And you're just prepared for it.
How much pressure have you felt, Staser?
I'd say there's definitely quite a bit of pressure, because as a junior and a senior in high school, the first question everybody asks you is, oh, where are you looking at for college?
Yeah.
So there's definitely some pressure to know where you want to go.
Right.
Which I've definitely felt, especially as I didn't have much of a plan until recently.
Okay.
It's definitely, there's definitely pressure.
Because if you say to someone, hey, what do you want to do? And they're like, I don't know. Where do you want to go? There is something there that people look at you like kind of, which is odd, because even Harry, the way you said it was like, okay, work is the next step. Well, yes, work would be the next step because you're going to become an adult. But people are expecting these kids, I think, to literally have their life planned out. Like, I am going to be a this. I'm going to go here. I'm going to make this. I'm going to, their lives have to be planned out. The level of pressure that's on them, I just don't remember feeling that.
Yeah, I'm sure it's much different now.
Yeah.
College was kind of out of the realm of what I could do next.
Yeah.
My parents were not in a position to help me at all. My brother graduated the same year from high school. We graduated together. And he had been ill for a year, so it was deemed that he should go to college.
Yeah.
And fortunately, he could get a scholarship or partial. So we just went different paths at that time. But we, nobody asked if I was going to go to college, because the rural community that I grew up in, that was not an option for very many people at all.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense then. That makes sense. So, Staser, where Do you feel pressure to have plans beyond even college? Do you have pressure to think about this is what my life needs to look like on the other side of college? Like, do you think about family? Do you think about marriage? Do you think about having kids? Are those things that you also feel pressure for?
Definitely not as much.
Okay.
That's a good question though, because some people do ask like, oh, do you have any plans after this? Like, especially relating to the academy, like, oh, what do you want to do after the Air Force?
Yeah.
Which I haven't thought about as much. I'm kind of more focused on just the next step in the process. But those are definitely things that I've thought about, but it's not something that I'm like, oh, I'm married to this idea.
Yeah.
So it's something that I'd definitely be willing to think about and change in the future.
I understand. So, Harry, how young were you when you got married?
I was 22,
Ooh, that's pretty young.
just barely.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
How young was your wife?
20,
Wow.
just barely.
Okay. So you got married really young.
That's right.
How'd you know she was the one?
I don't know. I knew her 4 months before we were married. So
You only knew her 4 months.
yeah,
And you said, this is it.
we said this is it. Yeah. It only lasted 66 years.
Is that it? 66?
Until she passed away 2 years ago.
Wow, I'm so
Yeah.
sorry, but 66 years.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys made a decent go of it then.
Oh, we did.
66
Yeah.
years, and if I remember correctly, 5 girls?
5 girls.
5 girls.
Right.
Okay. 66 years and 5 girls, and you
Yeah.
knew your wife 4 months.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and just to interject, in the period, I was in the apprenticeship 1 year.
Yeah.
And then because they were drafting from my draft board for Marines, for the Marine Corps was to go to Korea. The Korean War was on. And so I dodged that by joining the Army.
Okay.
So I spent 3 years in the Army, and I was in Seattle finishing up my enlistment when I met my wife.
Wow.
So that was quite a momental summer.
You wouldn't have met her if you wouldn't have joined the Army then?
We just happened to be
Okay.
there at the same time, and
Yeah.
I'd gone back to my hometown. She came there to visit one Sunday with a friend of hers who I had known for a long time,
Yeah.
and we met. And
Okay.
That's where it went from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And 66 years, Staser.
That's crazy.
66 years of marriage and living that kind of life, what kind of question would you have for Harry? Is it okay for me to ask your age, Harry?
Yeah, I was just 93 4 months ago.
Ooh, you do not look 90. I would not have guessed that. I would have put you in your 70s. Okay. So what kind of question would you have, Stacer, do you think? That's a...
I guess, what's the hardest part of that?
Oh, boy.
Hardest part of what?
I guess being in a marriage for 66 years, because I know it's great and it's amazing, but there's got to be difficulties along the way too.
Well, I guess commitment was the first thing. And there was never a thought of anything other than being together and making it work. And when we got married that same summer, that fall, I started at the University of Washington.
Okay.
And spent 5 years getting a bachelor's in mechanical engineering.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And from there went into a career.
Okay.
And
what did you do?
well, I went into management immediately out of college with then Pacific Northwest Bell, which had most of the telephone service in Washington and Oregon.
Okay.
And was part of AT&T at that time.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and then I had a 30-year career there. So some of it was pretty regular, just commitment to the college and commitment then to a career. Mm-hmm. So I guess, during the college, I think was probably the hardest. There were there were a number of times when I just thought the effort isn't worth it. Because we had 2 kids by the time I graduated. And
you're so young, too. You know what I mean? You're going to college. You're still in your 20s, right?
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
was 22 when I started, and
Right.
just about 27 when I finished.
And you had 2 little kids.
Yeah, 2
Okay.
kids. So there were times there when I would have quit and gone off to do something else because I knew I could always work in the machinist or mechanical business because I was adept at that.
Yeah.
But my wife kept reminding me that I was going to finish.
She gently reminded you, you will be finishing college.
Yeah.
What about the marriage? Was it difficult that young? You're in college, you got 2 little kids.
Well, we didn't have difficulty between us at all. We were compatible. We talked things out. We worked things out. We did things together as much as we could, and just enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And I look back now, and I can't think of anything. Well, I mean anything major that I would
you have normal
changed.
little things,
Right.
but nothing major
Yeah.
that took place.
And then too, the young people got married early in those days.
Yeah.
And so it was not unusual. We weren't different.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of young people, and you tell me this, Staser, because it's a lot of young guys. Just today, one of the young guys here said that he would feel more comfortable getting married when he knew he could provide. He wouldn't want to do it young if he thought he wasn't in a position to provide at that moment. You know what I mean? Like now I can provide for a family. Now I can think about having a family. Do you think that way, or is that just something so far off that you don't really consider that?
I haven't really thought about it in that way before.
Okay.
I guess it kind of makes sense, but
Yeah.
also at the same time, I think if you found your person and you want to spend the rest of your life with that person, I think it would be okay if you couldn't completely provide for them at that point, because they obviously are providing for themselves to some extent too.
Right.
Especially if you meet in college or something. So
Yeah.
I think at that point it would be okay.
Yeah, the older gentleman that I have talked to, Harry, and you can tell me what your perspective was. It was like, well, of course I'll provide, of course I'll work, but we'll make it work. It wasn't like I have to have everything established and everything ready and everything together, and then I can go get married. It's like, well, no, we'll make it work. I'm going to be the provider. It'll be fine. That seems more what your generation was thinking at that time.
I think that's true.
Okay.
Yeah. The future was not very clear then,
Yeah.
just like it isn't now for a lot of people.
Right.
But it was the future. It wasn't today. Let's live today and move forward.
That's a great nugget. Let's live today, right? It's we have today. Let's live today. Jesus said that, right?
Yeah.
Tomorrow will take care of itself. You cannot add anything tomorrow. Nothing you can do today that's going to help tomorrow. Just live today.
That's
so
right.
let me ask you this, Staser. I'm going to ask you this, and then I'm going to give you a minute to think about it, because I think an answer is going to come to your head that you think that I'm going to want to hear, and I want you to go past that answer, and then actually whatever answer is on the other side of that, give me that.
Okay.
If it's the same one, it'll be fine. What is the definition of a successful man? What would you look at a guy and say, that guy's a success? He is successful.
I think the first thing that comes to mind is you see a guy and you see like, oh, he has a lot of money. He's obviously very successful. But I don't think that's necessarily true. I think a person is only really successful when they have found what really makes them happy in life, whether or not that makes them a lot of money or not. I think somebody who has discovered like what they really want to do and what they really love to do is a lot more successful than somebody who makes a lot of money but kind of hates everything about their life.
Okay. So if two guys were invited to come to talk to in your class, and one guy dressed very nicely, you can look and see by whatever standards we visually, aesthetically say success, you see it. and he comes and talks to your class. He is eloquent and he's articulate and all of that. And we're like, okay. And then another guy comes and he is none of those things at all. And he just talks about the thing that he does. And he seems to love the thing that he does. Do you believe the people in your class would say the second guy is more successful than the first guy?
Probably not.
Would you say the second guy is more in the moment? Do you think you would be more inclined to say the second guy is more successful than the first guy?
I think it might take a bit to get to know them first and really figure out what they value and what they kind of think of themselves.
Okay.
But I think, the second guy would be more successful in my mind.
Okay. All right. What is success, Harry? You've lived from your pre-interview and what I've heard, it feels like you've lived a successful life. I'm sure in management and all that you've done through your job, you've seen a lot of guys come in and out of that office, a lot who are successful, a lot who thought they were successful. What would you say a successful man is?
Well, I don't think the definition of success is money or fame. It's how you adjust to life, how you live, what's important to you. The spiritual part of life is very important.
Yeah.
The family focus. So there are a number of things you focus on other than just my success, if you will. You want the family as a whole, if you have a family, to be successful.
That's good. How you adjust to life. Can you talk a little bit more about that? I love that being one of the first things you say, because life comes at you fast. And I'm sure over the 90 years, there are things that came at you that you weren't expecting and you had to adjust. And
that's true.
How you adjust can define whether you're successful or not, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, talking about family, we had the 5 girls in 6 years.
Woo!
And
talk about adjusting.
that was full-time adjustment.
Woo!
And it continued on. If you project that forward, we had 5 teenagers at one time.
Man.
They were all teenagers.
That's a lot, yeah.
If that's a description in itself of change.
Yes. I'm picturing it in my mind, Harry. Wow.
And when I went with Pacific Northwest Bell, too, I went into a program that was a sink or swim deal. They took 2 or 3 each year and put the pressure on you. They switched jobs every 3 months, my first 2 years there. And you had to learn to do that job and do it well and move on.
And if you didn't do it well, you were out? If you didn't do it well, you were out?
Well, you were evaluated, and if you didn't have success in the eyes of the upper management people, you were released.
Wow.
And so my first job was as an installation foreman. I was given 12 people to supervise installing telephones and driving around. So you become responsible for the work they do, the safety of the crew, their driving performance, and all the things that go with 12 people on the road going into customers' homes. And so you learn pretty fast on a curve like that.
Yeah.
And I was in accounting, personnel, marketing, and, a number of steps along the way.
Yeah.
And then after 2 years in the company, I was doing the budget for the general manager of Washington and Idaho, $40 million a year at that time for the maintenance part of the job. And so that was my job for 2 years then.
Yeah.
And so, life kept moving pretty rapidly.
Wow.
And at the same time, the family was growing and we were doing things as a family. And so, yeah.
Tell me how your relationship with God, the spiritual part of you, your faith, how that factored in and how that kept you focused and motivated. Because that's a lot of stuff. If you're in a program where it's a sink or swim, you got 5 girls in 6 years. That's a lot. I mean, you get here at 90 and you look back, and I'm sure it filters, all of our memories filter and then it like looks like a beautiful picture. But when you're in it, I just can imagine that that's just a lot going on. What part or how does your faith keep you buoyant?
And so I gave my heart to the Lord at a young age. And then my wife was a Christian. In fact, when I met her, she was going to Northwest Bible Institute at that time, which is now Northwest University.
Okay.
And so, we had that compatibility.
Yeah.
And we were married in her church, and we took the kids to church the whole time they were growing up. And so that was a real focus. We were active in, the young people's group or the youth group and those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So that was a focus of our life.
Yeah. And I'm guessing, looking back, if it weren't, that's probably what kept it all together.
It would have been much harder without that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it gave us, a basis for living, a basis for discipline, for growth. It all worked together, and we were blessed that way.
Staser, what some of do you struggle with anxiety?
I think most young people nowadays do. I would say I do, not as much as I used to. I've gotten a lot better at like managing just how I think about things. I think about things differently now than I used to.
When are you your most anxious?
Probably.
What brings you the most anxiety? What thoughts or what situations?
Probably when I just have a lot of work placed upon me, because I have a pretty high workload schedule. I do a lot of things at school and outside of school. So when all of those things kind of come to like a big point in the year, that's probably when I'm most stressed.
What about fear of future? A lot of the young people I talk to, that's a lot of their anxiety is when they start thinking about, where am I going to school? What am I going to... Is that scholarship going to come through? Am I going to be in the honors? When they start thinking about the future, there seems to be a significant amount of anxiety. Do you have any of that? Do you think about the future in a way that is anxiety inducing, do you think?
I think about the future a lot, but not as much in an anxiety inducing way.
Okay.
I'm pretty excited to see where the future will take me, because I know no matter where I end up, God will have a plan for me there. And there's just so many different opportunities. I feel like we live in a world full of opportunity now. So I think no matter where I end up, I'll be able to learn to enjoy that, even if it's not whatever my first choice is at the time.
Okay. Did you have anxieties, Harry, during, college time there? Got 2 little kids. Like, what were there anxiety? Were you an anxious person? Were you more of a kind of let's see what happens, take it each day, it'll be fine? Most of the older gentlemen that I talked to weren't the anxious one. Their wives were more the ones that were kind of worried. And he was more the kind of rock kind of guy. But I don't know. It can be different.
Yeah. Well, I think you'll always have certain times that cause you had to be anxious or create anxiety. Obviously, in school, I was carrying a heavy workload and working most of the time. And that's why, I stretched a 4-year curriculum into 5 years.
Okay. Squeeze 4 years into 5, huh?
And in that time, I made both ends of the dean's list.
Okay.
The high end and the low end. So, I saw it all.
Saw it all. Yeah, it's the span. It's the circle of life, Harry.
Yeah, you're right. But
I love that.
You work through it, and you just stay focused, do what you can do, and hope for the best on finals day.
Yeah.
Hope most of the questions are ones you thought about.
I think that is so important to take in. If you can, that sometimes that's not going to be it, right?
Yep.
And God is still God. Everything's okay. I'm going to wake up the next morning, and God will be exactly who He was the day before. He'll be the same God He was when I was at the top of the list. It's not going to fall apart, and those are things that I think we do good to hold on to, and to hear someone say they had a blessed, successful life. and those little moments happen in between, and it's okay. Can you think of any particular moment in life that was stressful, anxiety, or something that you looked at and was like, I don't know how we're going to get out of this, but you got on the other side and it was okay?
Yeah, there was. If I just kind of, go through a few steps after going into business, I stepped up through the ranks fairly rapidly, and in 9 years I was a division manager, and given the everything in the state of Washington outside of Seattle itself, and was the division manager and established a new division. So there I had 1,200 people and 600 vehicles on the road, and all that stuff related to telephone business. And then I went to AT&T for 3 years to work at AT&T headquarters in New York City, and worked out of there and worked all over the Bell system, all across the country with a group, doing performance evaluations and things like that. Then I came back to another division, and this gets to your point. I was in that division for a couple of years, and one of my districts was not performing very well. And so I had a program in place to deal with that. And my manager, who was an assistant vice president, didn't like the progress I was making. And my boss called the deal and said, okay, Harry, you didn't do this fast enough. We're going to demote you.
Wow.
So I was demoted, and my next step up would have been at the assistant vice president level.
Wow.
Well, I never made it, and of course that affects me even today in my retirement.
Wow.
Because the salary didn't go up. The point being is that I got through that and did the job I was assigned to, and then was called back to AT&T, even though the company had completely split, to do a consultancy for them in Australia with Telecom Australia. So, I could have decided not to take that, but I did. And so life went on.
Yeah.
Point being, when I retired, the company president complimented me for the way I had handled all this stuff, the downgrade and that. So I say that all just to say that you can have a great trend going, but somewhere you're going to hit a bumps along the way.
Ooh, that's in your character. It speaks to your character on how you deal with it, right? Who you are as a person.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what you value.
Another setback, just within the last 2 weeks, one of my 5 daughters died.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
And
I'm so sorry.
That also focuses your perspective. Did I do, for my kids what I should have done? Yeah, I'm sorry.
No.
Yeah.
What do you know about Jesus? Having gone through that, having gone, loss of a wife, ups and downs, successful life, but not without its challenges and its losses. What can you tell Staser? Here's what I know about Jesus.
I know he's faithful, and he's with you if you ask him to be. And, he's right there. Very close. And and you don't even have to say anything in certain circumstances. You'll just know he's there. You'll feel him with you. And that's a real comfort in the tough times. All the rest of the stuff fades away. And you realize that life is one step at a time, and that's another step with Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. All right. I am going to do the last thing here. Unless, Staser, if you have any questions, this is the time to ask it.
Yeah, I do have one question, actually. So you have lived a very long and seems fulfilling life. What would you say has gotten you, day to day, what has been like the thing that most consistently gets you through every day?
Well, I think it's a prayer you say in the morning. And, you know, the prayers you say during the day, you know, circumstances come up, you talk to the Lord, you say, thank you, Lord, when something small happens that's a blessing. Thank you, Lord, for that. Or, Lord, how do I do with what do I do here? You know, just that closeness, I think, is what you want to have. And one thing I'd suggest, too, that's been a big help to me is to make lifetime decisions. You know, when you're young, you're going to be facing all kinds of things. And what I've found in the things where I have made a lifetime decision early on, then I could depend on that. For example, when I was 18, I was playing ball with an apprentice team, basketball. And we went to California for a series of games, a whole week. They did that every year, back and forth. And in the course, we had meals and dinners and all that stuff. And there was all alcohol there. I was 18. And I had a couple of drinks. I had not had any drinks before. And the Lord impressed on me, that's not good. And I liked that stuff, whatever it was that was given to me. And I made a decision right there. I wouldn't drink alcohol. Well, that came up a million times
of course.
in the career that I had. We're always associating with people in groups. And people would literally say, well, why aren't you drinking? What's wrong with you? And I just have to simply say, well, you know, years ago when I was young, I made a decision not to do that, and I've stuck with that decision. And that kept me from having to justify it every time the question came up.
Yeah.
And I use that as an illustration that you put that behind you, and then you can just quote my decision back then. You don't have to argue the point anymore. And that seemed to be satisfactory. At least it got me through a lot of what could have been uncomfortable situations, because things like that people will bore in on because they want to make you feel different. If it's the kind of person that will ask a question like that.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's just another issue.
I love that. Make a life decision, and that's your decision. And then you hold to it.
Yeah.
That builds character. That builds the person or the man that you want to be. And that's just the man you're going to be.
You know, I won't have premarital sex. I won't have this. I won't have that. And it becomes part of your life. And I just felt it useful.
I love that.
Whatever it's worth.
It's worth so much. It's worth so much. So much. All right, before I wrap up, I'm going to give this to you, Staser. And is there a pen? Yes, there is. Pen right there. Okay, and so Staser is going to write down this, whatever. It's going to be one nugget of information, one nugget of wisdom that you have, Harry, whatever it is that you're like, no matter what, I want you to think of this. I want you to remember this. This is important as a life lesson. He's going to take this. He's going to take it with him to college. He's going to have it in his tux pocket when he gets married. He's going to have it there in the maternity ward when his wife is having the first baby. He's going to have this card there at his daughter's graduation. No pressure. He's going to have this card with him everywhere he goes. This nugget of wisdom that you're about to give him, Harry, whatever it is, he's going to write it down. And then when he writes it down, he's going to date it. And then he's going to give it to you to sign so that he remembers this day that you gave him this nugget of wisdom. Whatever it is, whatever you think he needs to have this in life, what do you think it is?
Lord, if you ask me to do it, I'll do it.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. Life has taught me, Harry, and it probably you as well. God always seems to have a different thought than I do. You just sign it, Harry. Put your signature there so he remembers when God starts saying, guess what, Staser, we're going on a missionary trip to Uganda. You're going to look at that paper and remember, Harry said, Lord, if you ask me to do it, I will do it. And just trust him on the other side. And you're looking at a man who has lived that. So, guys, thank you so much for being here with me. I appreciate it, Staser and Harry. And thank you all for listening. Again, we're so glad that you join us on From the Eyes of Wisdom.
Thanks for listening. We just wanted to take a minute to let you know that just like you and your family, Purposely is also part of a family, the Krista Family of Ministries. Krista helps kids and teens learn and grow in their faith at King Schools and Miracle Ranch Camp. And Krista shares Jesus with people in the poorest, most remote places through World Concern. Krista Senior Living is a community of love and care, and Krista Media is a place of hope on the radio. God is changing lives through these 5 ministries, and Krista is on mission to share the good news of Jesus. To learn more, visit Krista.org.